Today I want to tell you about a fun experiment I'm doing with my kids this summer called the squash patch. So I just kind of threw this together at the beginning of the summer as a way to experiment and have fun. And I thought I'd show you what has happened in my squash patch. Sound good? My name is Nicole Burke. I'm the author of Kitchen Garden Revival. No squash patches in that book, by the way. And I'm the founder of Rooted Garden and Gardenary Incorporated. Gardenary is here to make gardening an ordinary part of your everyday life once again. So come and hang out with us all over the interwebs. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a podcast called Grow Yourself. And then of course we're here on YouTube. So I hope you'll find your place where you can make gardening an ordinary part of your life too. Today I want to just tell you the step-by-steps I did to create this fun little patch of life in the backyard. So we live in the Chicago area, and we actually bought this home for the backyard. But we soon realized as we kind of went through the first year here that the backyard was going to be a difficult place to have the kitchen garden. And currently I'm pretty far from my back door. So the goal of a kitchen garden is something you can tend to and, harvest from and enjoy right away. Ponyo is liking my squash patch. No, sir. So anyway, we put the kitchen garden up closer to the house, but I've always had this extra space that I've been thinking about things to do with. I wasn't ready to go formal this year, so we just did this. So in this space, we had bushes and trees previously, and last year, Jason, my husband, tore them out. So he took most everything out of the space. You can see this one has come back. So we didn't completely uproot everything, which we probably should have done, but some of those root systems were pretty well established. So he took out mostly everything here, and I ended up with a bunch of cardboard boxes. I was doing a promotional thing with Le Creuset, and they sent me all these wonderful packages of their great pots and pans and all kinds of stuff. So I found myself with all these extra boxes. So I came out here after Jason and I cleared the space, and I just laid the boxes down. So I put the boxes all over this entire space as a way to suppress weeds and kind of stop whatever else was growing and just kind of be a barrier before I planted. Then I got a delivery of about 5 yards of compost. Now I have to say I was disappointed in the consistency of the compost. It wasn't at all what I anticipated it being, but I had 5 yards sitting on my driveway, so I had to do something with it. So I took the 5 yards and almost single-handedly, Jason helped me a little bit and my kids did too, but for the most part, it was me moving wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow from the front yard to the back. So I covered this whole area. I want to say we put in probably, in some spots, there's probably 6 to 8 inches of compost. In other places where it's, more shallow, there's probably 3 or 4. So I covered the spot with compost, and then I came in with seed and got my daughter to help me. So my youngest is 8 years old, and I gave her a bunch of squash packages, almost all from Baker Creek Seeds. And I said, here you go, which ones do you want to plant? So she got to choose what we planted, and we put them into groups. So each little section of the garden, we planted, say, 5 or 6 different sets of seeds, or 5 or 6 seeds of the same type of plant. And then I labeled them because I knew I'd forget. So this one is Boston Man squash, something like that. Boston something squash. I also have really bad handwriting, but I do have all the seed packages. So I put down the label and we planted 5 or 6 seeds in each kind of section. And then I have to say, after that, we pretty much just let it go. I mean, no watering or anything. We've just kind of let nature do its thing. Every now and then when we go through a serious drought, I'll bring some pitchers of water out here, but we're really far from the house, so I don't have any formal irrigation happening. I also, at the same time, we planted giant sunflower seeds and loads of zinnias because I knew that squash need to be around pollinating flowers. But unfortunately, a rabbit came, or several rabbits, ate all of the sunflower seedlings the minute they came up. So that was a total bummer. So we lost all of our sunflowers, but we do have zinnias. So these are just finally coming up. I think these are the queen lime or something like that. And then I have canary yellow up here in the front that all came up. But the rest of the flowers I attempted to grow, none of those took off. So you can see the canary yellow. We've had tons of yellow zinnias. So I do think that's helped a little bit with the pollination. So like I said, we planted about 6 or 7 different varieties of squash families. We did watermelons and some crazy squash. And so far it's been okay. So these seeds have been growing for probably 6 weeks at this point, 6 or 7 weeks. And starting about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got tons and tons and tons of male flowers. So male flowers all over these plants, but very few female flowers. And then we took a vacation. So we were gone for about a week and came back to find a few things that are growing. So I thought I will close up the video by showing you the things that are growing so far, and then we'll keep updating you as the season goes on and crossing my fingers to see what actually turns out. The bottom line, the main thing I want to encourage you to do in your own garden, whether it's a kitchen garden or a squash patch, wherever it is every year, do something just for fun, just an experiment where you're not really expecting anything to happen. You're really just doing it to learn something. And that's what this is. This is just like a way to learn something new and to see what might happen, because if this actually turns into something, you know, productive, then we suddenly have this new place to grow in our yard. So I'm going to see if I can peep in here and pull up a few of the fruits or the melons that are growing. So here we have a couple of watermelon that are forming. Can you see this tiny little one here? And then, can you see that? Out of the shadow. And here's one that's a little bit bigger. So time will tell if these will fully develop. Last year I did try watermelon, but did not have a ton of success. These are called, let's see. These are like Bay Cadena watermelon from Baker Creek. So it's like a special kind of watermelon. And then we have this very unique melon growing, and these are one of those huge squashes and gourds from Baker Creek as well. So I have about 4 or 5 of these that are starting to form. And then the last thing, I'm gonna have to bring you to the back of the garden to show you. You wanna come with me and show them? So let's go back here. Around the corner, and I'll show you the coolest thing that's growing so far. All right, so this was my youngest daughter's first pick. When she saw the choices in the pictures, she wanted to do these spinning gourds. And I have to say, I'm so glad she chose them, because we are getting so many started. So you can see, here's one, here's another one, and let's see how this vine goes. Maybe that's the end of that vine. There's some right here on this one. Here is a more mature one. And it's just so neat, because a lot of the other gourds that we're trying, I might see 1 or 2 fruit. Can you see that one? I might see 1 or 2 fruit, but on the spinning gourds, they seem to be really consistently fruiting. So here you can see the continuation of the vine and how we're getting just fruit after fruit. See that every single juncture on the plant produces a new gourd, which I've just never seen that much consistent fruit growth before from a cucurbit family. Let me show you even this one. It's over here in the shade a little bit from the bush growing back. And it's just so fun. Look at these. I just think they're so cute. I brought my kids back here the other day to show them, because I just think it's going to be so fun. I've never grown gourds like this, and if they really work out, it's just going to be a treat. So there you have it. That's how to create a squash patch. So let me break it into just a few steps for you. One, you can do this in the ground, and as you can see by the size of this, I highly recommend doing so. This is not a good setup for a raised bed. It's going to end up taking up so much space in your raised bed. So go ahead and set it up in the ground. I do recommend putting down a weed barrier of some sort. For me, it was Le Creuset cardboard boxes, but you could do it with any kind of cardboard or weed barrier. Then adding pure compost. Cucurbits love growing in compost. So adding in, say, 4 or 5 inches of compost right on top, and then planting great varieties of seeds throughout your squash patch to grow. Label them just the way I did, and use better handwriting than I did so you can actually read the labels. And then one thing I would do differently with my flowers, when I planted those, I should have covered them, say, with some burlap or some mesh until they grew up a little bit more mature, to prevent the rabbits from eating the seedlings when they first were getting started. Because could you imagine how gorgeous this would have been if I had huge sunflowers right in the middle of the squash patch, it was gonna be amazing. So, oh well, I'll take what I can get, and it looks like bottle gourds is gonna be what I get. So thanks so much for watching and for bringing back the kitchen garden with me and the squash patch. If you want to learn where you are, where we think you are in your gardening journey, and get free resources to learn to grow to the next level, you gotta take the Green Thumb quiz. It's at gardenary.com/quiz. We'll ask you just a few quick questions and then give you your results and share with you some resources we think you could use to grow to the next level. Thanks so much for being a huge part of Gardenary. I love you for it. See you next time.